Jesus Christ, that lighting is horrible. There we go. Okay, so my buddy not just left. We actually hung out today, and he gave me a copy of Pokémon Ruby because he needed a battery replaced because the internal clock is not working, and he thought it would be fun if I did a video on it. And because I saw one for $90 fucking today, I thought this might be fun in case you wanted to, I don't know, buy another copy instead of, or replace the battery instead of buying another copy. So, I got the spare battery that we're going to replace, and basically I'm just going to show you how to do it. So, first and foremost, gloves are not necessary, usually, but because this is not my game, I'm just going to take super care to get this right. Because your natural oils are kind of corrosive, or they're just acidic, so it could be corrosive. What I need is a tri-wing screwdriver bit. Here we go. This is just a little screwdriver bit I bought on eBay. You can get it for like $8, and it takes apart basically everything. So, let's top part. Oh, it's actually in there pretty tight. That's kind of cool. Okay, and it's magnetic, so you will never lose the screw. That's beautiful. And to anybody who has never done this before, you don't just pry it off when you get the screw out. You have to slide it down just a little bit and then pull it up afterwards. Because these little plastic bits here are on a track here, and that's what keeps the whole thing in place. And yeah, it was a great thing that I brought those with me because this needs to be cleaned. And then it'll just fall right out. So, there's your game, and before I do anything else, I'm going to clean the absolute hell out of this because it needs it. And this is just 70% isopropyl alcohol. It would probably be better if you had 90, or at the very least like mid-80s. But, I mean, 70 is good. It'll dry off just as fast. Oh, knocked over the box. And I gotta keep my hands in frame, damn it. I'm kind of sitting at a weird angle. Like, if you saw the setup that I'm doing right now, it's bare bones, at best. But it works. Yeah, I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see. Oh, you can see it. Yeah, crap ton of dirt, and you can even see the outline where the battery was. It's beautiful. Alright, so I'm just gonna wipe that part down. I'm trying to do it in the light so that I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm trying to be super duper careful that I don't touch the label, because alcohol and stickers don't really mesh well together. I think they hate each other. They had a war or something over it, and someone dropped a bomb and hey, we won. And there it is. All nice and clean, so we'll just sit these off to the side, wait for that to evaporate. Okay, so, first thing you're going to want to do, for obvious reasons, is to take the original battery out. Let's see if I can't zoom in on this, so you can actually see what the hell I'm doing. Kickstand went out. Okay, there we go. So, 2 solder points here and here. All you gotta do is take those out. So, if I can find the tweezers, here we go. Also, bear in mind, I've had the soldering iron on high, just charging, since before I even turned the camera on. You need it nice and hot in order to do this. So you just take this and you just touch it to the solder and wait for it to melt, and it should slide up. Yeah, there we go. Give it a few seconds, do it on the other side. The only thing I hate about replacing Game Boy Advance batteries is that because it's so small, everything is so close together, so I'm trying to only touch what I need to with this thing. This one is slightly harder to get off. Oh, there it goes. And there you go. That's basically it. Wipe this off. You're trying to keep the tip of your iron nice and clean. The more gunked up it is, the longer it'll take for it to actually do anything. And just because it's so... It was so disgusting on the inside, I'm just gonna wipe the hell out of this. Again, with alcohol, you don't want to do this with water. It'll just ruin everything. And to anybody worrying, no, you can wipe the chips off with alcohol as well. It evaporates so fast, it doesn't do any damage. The only thing you have to be careful for is this part here, just because it's sticking up. And you can see why I wanted the gloves, because I didn't want to touch all this circuitry with my bare hands. Not when it needs this much of a clean. Okay, so now I'll just clean the contact points off. And that's good. Okay, so now to put in the new battery, and this one's kind of a talking point for me because I've heard it both ways, like I've seen it on forums and stuff. So I'm just gonna mention this really quick. So the batteries that Game Boy Advance games use is what's called a CR1616. It's on the back of that. It's extremely tiny, like it fits in the tip of my index finger. Whereas the first and second generation games, with the exception of Pokemon Yellow, all use a bigger CR2025. And side by side, yeah, you can see that one is much smaller, and it's also way thinner. Now, if you go online, there will be people who can say, well, you can use the bigger battery for a Game Boy Advance game so long as it fits. Which is true. It will fit. Problem is, you run the risk of bulging the case or just snapping it entirely because the battery is soldered over top this chip here, and it has way less headroom than the one that you're supposed to be using. So it'll work. It'll make your clock run just a little bit longer than this puny thing will, but do at your own risk. I'm not responsible for any broken cartridges. So now, figuring out the polarity, there's a little minus symbol over here, and there's a plus symbol right there, which means that the contact over here is positive and that side is negative. To figure that out on the battery, usually one has the stippling up top, but the other side tells you the polarity of it. So in this case, this flat side has a plus on it, which means this tab right here on top of that is the positive side, which means it goes like this. The problem you're going to run into, because you're doing it over a chip, unlike the last few games, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but the pins are kind of lifting up. So in order to get it to fit right, you have to bend it down ever so slightly. And hopefully I can do this without breaking anything. I'm not applying a lot of pressure, just enough. I'm just bending it down enough that it touches what it needs to. That one works. And then this side. Bend it just a little bit. I wonder if anybody actually heard that. That was my phone going off. So hopefully that's good enough. And it looks like we're good. Okay. So, first thing I'm going to do, and ideally for this you'd want to take the old solder off and put new solder on, but I don't have a solder braid, so that's not going to work. So instead what I'm going to do is just leave what little is already on there, and just add new solder on. So if I can position it to where you can see what I'm doing, you touch the iron to the contact pad, wait for that to heat up, and then you just slowly feed solder onto it. And just wipe that on. I think I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Also, if any of you are doing this indoors, try not to breathe that directly in. I'm not entirely sure if that's toxic or not. I'm just kidding, you'll be fine. Okay, then we do the same on this side. The problem with doing on this side is because everything is much smaller than a Game Boy Color, you could run into some issues with, like, touching things you're not supposed to. I'll just give it a few minutes for that to cool. There you go, nice silvery bits. So, we already mentioned the flat side was positive and the stippled side was negative. So, the way I normally do it for this, just to alleviate any problems, is to position the battery where I want it after applying solder to both points, and then just touch it. And eventually underneath it will melt, and then you just slide the battery over top, just cover it with solder, and just wait. I probably should have been watching the phone. Oh well. Hopefully you can see what I'm trying to do here. So I'll lift that up slightly to melt the stuff underneath, touch it, and then just wrap it around. Tab. And on that side, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. Because on this side, you can see it's pretty well covered, whereas that side is just barely hanging on. So, not a huge deal. You just do the same exact thing that you were doing before. Touch the contact points, add solder, lift up. Just wait for that to dry. And there we go. Now you can see that dirty bit just kind of sitting there. Not a huge deal. Actually, I think I'm going to flatten that side out just a little bit more, because I don't want anything sticking up and ruining the case of a $90 fucking game. I swear an awful lot. This is not going to be family friendly. What do I care? I'm not even monetizing my channel anyway. So, that being done, you take another pad of alcohol, and you just wipe down the points where the solder was. So you can hopefully see what I'm doing here. And that's just getting rid of all the flux, which I'm assuming is just impurities in the solder. So, now that that's done, we piece it all back together. So, actually, yeah, I'm going to leave it zoomed in like this, which is just a matter of placing it back over the plastic bits, which as you can see are here. So, oh wait, that's the case. What the hell am I doing? That side, flat side. Flat side has these bits, where those two connect into. It's not going anywhere now. Then I'm gonna unzoom, or zoom out. Okay. So, once again, find out where everything lines up and slide it forward. Now, take the screw. There we go. And then just tighten that back up. Goddamn magnetic things. Nice and tight. And I probably should have done this at the start so you can actually see what the heck I was doing this for. But alright, I don't need the gloves anymore, I don't think. So when the game boots up, movie version. And there you go. You don't get that stupid thing popping up. That said, the battery's dry and the clock won't work. Well, I didn't want that to go on for 15 minutes, so hope you found that informative.